Live. You're live. Oh, hold on. If we're live,
We're live?
then I got to play the theme
You're
song.
listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and
You hear that in your
Justin
headphones?
Domashevitz.
I can hear it in my headphones. Yeah, Monday. Wait, Sunday. Sorry, I jumped back to like 12 years ago there.
Yeah, we used to start with the Eric Asilius, Monday,
Yeah,
pretty
Monday.
much every single week.
Yes.
If you happen to be watching at any point, because looks like we might have 5 viewers already.
What?
If you're watching and listening, please let us know how it sounds.
Yes.
We don't have a producer today.
There's a fruit fly on your screen. That's gonna. Sorry.
It's okay.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
fruit fly.
Dang, fruit flies in my apartment.
Yeah, it's a bad. Anybody else also drop a comment in the chat if
Yes.
if you feel like it's been an especially bad fruit fly season,
Yes.
because we both definitely feel that way.
100%.
I'm trying to get the audio up a little bit because it looks
Forrest says it sounds good.
sounds good. Okay,
And Patrick Rasmussen says Lima Charlie. I think that is that just
Okay.
the phonetics for LC?
baby, he's a
And-
military
And
man.
two says only here for Andrew. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
bud.
Sorry, Nick. Nick, you're going to be disappointed. We are
sorely.
producerless today
Yes, we
because
had no
Andrew is
producer.
bad at communication.
Yes. What was it yesterday?
Yeah.
It was yesterday. I was like, "Hey, what time are we recording tomorrow?" And Andrew's like, "Oh, I'm bad at communication. I'm not gonna be here."
Oh, Lima Charlie is Army speak for loud and clear. Okay,
I knew it was
perfect.
LNC.
Hey, we learned
Okay.
something new today.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Always learning. Stay curious.
Yeah.
You know? Nick says, "Lol, sounds fine." He's disappointed.
That's okay.
We've got
Nick disappoints me all the time, so it's fine.
Yikes.
You know what I've always, Daniel, you and I have talked about this before. I've always wanted to have like podcast beef.
Yeah.
Like there was a point when Ryland and
yeah.
Spencer and
Mhm.
Matt Evans
You tried to create.
I tried to
beef.
create beef, and Ryland Spencer just like totally ignored the beef that I tried to create. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I guess we can just be friends.
Yeah.
And then I started like contributing. I like it, the idea. You know, Nick's a pretty cool guy, but people don't need to know that. We just have podcast beef with N2 Media and the Pick 6 podcast.
Yeah. Well,
Those
now that you
guys.
remember what it's
Ugh.
called,
Okay.
I feel like you're doing a pretty good job of creating the beef
Thank you.
by forgetting what his podcast is named. Like he shows up. He's been here for weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
I'm impressed and grateful, by
I'm
the way. because
basically
he is-
like a burger chef. I'm so good at creating beef.
Bob's Burgers? Yeah. What did you think of my costume, by the way?
I thought it was.
I saw that you thought I should be a different character.
I'm
and
going to be honest,
don't
Daniel.
know how I feel about that.
I'm going to be honest, Daniel. I looked at it and I was like, okay, I can tell what all these other characters are. What's Daniel supposed to be? You're just not a Gene. You're not a Gene Belcher.
I'm not.
It's not proper casting.
No.
You're much more of a Jimmy Jr.
Was-
I can see you out there dancing around with floppy arms.
I looked up because I know the show, but I don't know it that well.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, who's Jimmy Jr.? And I looked it up. I was like, oh. I was like, A, you're right.
He's the heartthrob of the show.
But B, dang it.
He's Tina's crush. He's basically the Mark Paul Gosselaar.
By the way, of all of the costumes,
Yeah.
I thought Tina was the best one.
Yeah.
I thought she nailed it. The best out of everybody.
Yeah.
Because she also got the pose like perfect.
Well, you know what's funny?
What?
I told my wife like a month ago, if I ever dress up for Halloween, we're going to go as Bob and Linda Belcher. And she
Yeah.
was like, but then you'd have to shave your beard. And I was
Ooh.
like, I think I'd do it to be Bob Belcher.
Wow.
And then I was toying with the idea of going for Halloween as the Dogfather,
Oh.
Terry Jensen,
Also to have to
which
shave
I
your
would have
beard.
worn this
Yeah.
and I would have shaved my beard to just a mustache.
Yeah.
I would have walked around with a clipboard and a headset and probably some cargo shorts or something
Some
like that.
glasses.
And
some readers.
I totally would have done it,
Yeah.
except I wasn't sure if he'd think it was funny.
You were scared.
So I didn't do it.
You were scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just throwing this out there. The guy who we had play Bob didn't shave his beard, just put black on his mustache.
Yeah, I thought that was lame.
Okay.
I thought it was lame.
All right.
Could have done better. I mean, commit to the costume.
Understandable. I shaved my beard for
Yeah.
the costume.
Yeah.
I had a beard.
Yeah.
I shaved it, dyed my hair black, which was super messy, by the way.
You dyed your hair black?
Well, with the spray stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it's back now.
It looked pretty light still.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Dude, it was enough of a difference between shaving my beard and spraying my hair black that multiple coworkers didn't recognize me.
Huh.
Like they saw me and were like, "Who the heck just walked out of our building? Do we
I
need to
think
call
that-
somebody?"
I thought the same when I saw the picture. I had to zoom in on it to make sure it was you.
Yeah.
But I thought that was much more to do with the hairstyle, like the way you had your hair brushed down in the front.
Okay. I think we might need to dive into the show because Chase says Friday was a night I'll never get back in my life.
Yeah, he
Not
was
sure
at
what
the
that is.
Elma Monty football game.
Oh,
Yeah, I talked
Sorry,
to him for a
bud.
little bit. He was having a rough night.
yeah. Sorry, bud. Justin was there, so you should have known what was going to happen. And then Nick says, "Man, these crossovers are amazing. Such an awesome idea." Oh boy, do we have some opinions on that?
I don't want to call them crossovers.
What are they?
I've been calling them state play-ins.
Well, yeah, because it's what it reminds me of? The regional round of the state tournament
Exactly
in
what it is.
basketball. That's
Yeah.
what it feels like. And boy, the travel concerns.
You would think a regional round means you play in your region, not
At-
drive 7 hours to get to the team you're going to
At
play.
least cut the state in half, but nope, they can't tell that. Yeah, Chase says, "Why the hell is Colville driving 7 hours?" Good question, Chase. But before we get to that, because we're going to want to rant about it for a while, I think, or
Yes.
at least talk.
Yeah.
I tend to. But before we get to the local sports roundup, I don't know if you saw this, but I slipped something into the show sheet.
Oh, the show sheet. Okay.
Did you see that I slipped something
I
in?
didn't, but the way you started that
Yeah.
sentence made me feel concerned.
So last week it's such a bummer that Andrew's not here. There's multiple things that I would like him to do. It would be nice if we had Andrew, because then he could like play a clip from last week. And then he could play the clip of me saying that I'm getting a little emotional, because I got a little emotional last week, Justin. And so
I was there.
I need to apologize, I feel like, for where I took us down a path that was a dark path, I feel like. And so I need to apologize to my not necessarily. I mean, who cares? People listening to us probably don't care that much.
Yeah, screw you, listeners.
But I felt bad because I ended up not only saying some mean things about a couple of different teams that I don't even really think, but also I pushed you into saying some mean things about some teams that I don't think you really think that much either. And it was all because I got upset about an argument we had about the athlete of the week. And so I feel like I need to apologize for that. And personally, I feel like I need to retract my statement that I don't think this Monty team can do any damage in the state playoff, because I think they can. But I was so far down a rabbit hole of like trying to prove a point that I was like just throwing out whatever hyperbolic statement I could to try and make myself sound better. So I apologize.
Well, and your it actually leads perfectly into my retraction.
Oh, you have one too?
I do, because when I listened back to it, the one thing that I really wish that I could have sucked back into my mouth after I said it. Hey, you said slip it in. I can say whatever I want.
Okay.
The thing I wish I could have taken back immediately
Yeah.
was the thing that led to you saying that you didn't think Monty had a chance to do anything in state, was because I said that I didn't think Aberdeen had a chance when they got into that round of 32.
Right.
Which it's a really nonsensical, hyperbolic thing to say.
Right.
Because
We don't know.
number one, we didn't even know the matchup. We didn't know where Aberdeen was going to be seated. We didn't know, like, number one, anything can happen in a football game. It's a weird game with a weird shaped ball, and it bounces all kind of different ways. There's been weird weather issues lately. So
it's
the idea
most
to
emotional game there is.
that, yes. And then
Yeah.
to say that a team who just had a kid rush for 278 yards in a game, he didn't have a chance to do anything at state, just a ridiculous thing to say. So I would like to retract that. Okay.
Well, now that we're done with that, are we done with that?
We are. Yeah.
I feel, did I do my duty? Did I do well enough? Because
you did so much duty.
I think it's time to get to the local sports roundup, which we don't have a bed underneath.
Yeah.
So should the opposite person just like be like like underneath?
Yeah, or we could just say it.
Yeah,
we
we
could
probably
just say
could.
it.
We'll put it in post. If you want
Okay.
the polished version, listen to the show tomorrow.
Yeah.
But please don't leave.
It'll either be
also.
polished or Polished,
Yeah.
one of those, but they're spelled the same. We'll start it right off at the top. Montesano's football team beat rival Elma in dominant fashion on Friday, 45-0. Sorry about that, Chase. Zach Timmons started in place of injured Bulldog halfback Tarek Gunter and rushed for 138 yards on 15 carries and a touchdown. Monty tight end Marcus Hale also stepped into a backfield role in some situations and rushed for 30 yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 carries, while also catching 3 passes for 47 yards. Mason Rasmussen led the Bulldogs in receiving with 3 catches for 64 yards and a bruising TD catch. Cole Kesbu, playing in place of injured Monty receiver Torrin Kreitz, rushed 3 times for 48 yards and a score. Isaac McGaffey led the Eagles in rushing with 45 yards, and Dayton Brookins led in receiving with 3 catches for 43 yards. Montesano will start its postseason by hosting Colville on Saturday at 2 o'clock. Elma will play at La Center. Time and date TBD. Both of those are elimination games. Winners to state, losers out.
Nick says, don't apologize for anything. Stand for something or fall for everything. I stand for things, just not that. Just not things.
I
stupid
stand
things
for not saying that a team has no chance to win a game.
Aberdeen closed out its regular season with a 22-7 non-league win at Tenino on Friday.
Take that, Beavers.
Bobcats senior running back Micah Schroeder rushed for 156 yards and 3 touchdowns on 22 carries. Riley Wixon added 46 yards on 8 carries, and Adonis Hammonds led Aberdeen in receiving with 72 yards on 5 catches. The Bobcats will host a pigtail game against Columbia River on Tuesday, and the winner of that game will face South Puget Sound League champ Franklin Pierce. I haven't heard of that school. Franklin Pierce?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Franklin in Pierce County? Anyway, or is it Franklin? Like, is that the full name of the school?
Franklin Pierce?
Yeah.
I think it's Franklin Pierce High School.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In a state play-in game on Friday or Saturday.
PL Willapa Valley made its playoff path a bit tougher by losing 14-0 at Adna on Thursday. By the way, I saw pictures of that game. Couldn't see the jersey numbers. It was so muddy and gross. The Titans dropped to the 3 seed in the 2B Central West League with the loss and will travel to Toledo for a district crossover this week. 2B, still doing district crossovers. They're not in this whole random seeding thing. Nathan Fluke passed for 98 yards for PWV in the game with 6 completions to Blaine King for 57 yards. Yeah, it was just an unfortunate thing for PL Willapa Valley because they would have had a much easier matchup in crossovers if they had won that game.
Raymond South Bend ended its football season with a 38-30 home loss against Ilwaco. Oh, did not see that coming.
The Fishermen.
Man, my picks were real bad this week.
Mm-hmm.
I
This
forgot to
week?
shut up. I forgot to check this week. This season.
Okay. there we go.
Raven senior running back Isaac Schluter led the team with 160 yards and a touchdown on 16 carries. Schluter also caught a touchdown pass from Chris Quintana. Quintana also rushed for a score.
Hoquiam capped its football season
Don't
with
say
a
it.
42-0 home loss
Nobody
against
cares.
Rochester
Stop.
on free day.
Oh,
Grizzly quarterback. I knew I could get you back.
you got me back.
Grizzly quarterback Joey Bozich passed for 69 yards. Nice. In the contest, and Lincoln Nemi caught 2 passes for 50 yards. Unsurprisingly, Rochester star running back Ethan Rodriguez rushed for 160 yards and 4 touchdowns on 10 carries.
Just on 10 carries.
Yeah.
He's
what he do.
Yep. Wishkah Valley secured a 1B 6-man football playoff spot with a 44-19 win over Washington School. That's not oh wait, no. I thought it was Washington School, which I was going to say was fake. But Washington School for the Deaf is
That's real.
Definitely real. That was on Thursday. Bodie Doogie, is that my neighbor? Sorry. Doogie was a family name of people who grew up next to me when I was back on Ocean Beach Road, made his first start at quarterback in the contest, completing 13 of 17 passes for 184 yards and 5 touchdowns. Matthew Erickson caught 7 of those passes for 115 yards and 2 scores, while also rushing for a touchdown and leading the defensive charge with 10 tackles. Big game. Cole Brandner caught 5 passes for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. And on the other side of the ball, intercepted 3 passes, returning 1 for another score. 6-man football is even wilder than 8-man football.
It really is. It really is. Elma earned a share of the 1A Evergreen League girls soccer title with a 2-0 home win over Montesano on Tuesday. It's like my mouth is trying to reject saying the words out loud, so they just came out wrong. Senior midfielder Valerie Echeverria scored 2 goals in the second half. See? 2 goals in the second half, 1 assisted by Beta Valentine and 1 by Mia Monroe. District tourney play. I'm telling you what, it's this one. Like,
you want me to read it?
Somehow it's like I'm wearing these clothes, and so it won't I'm going to do it. I'm going to fight through.
Are you sure?
District tourney play for both teams will start on Tuesday. Montesano is the league's top seed by virtue of tiebreakers and will host La Center. Elma is the 2nd seed and will host Columbia White Salmon. The Bulldogs and Eagles each are on opposite sides of the bracket, so if they win their next 2 games, they will face off in the district title game on Saturday, and that would be super fun.
I love how you had to turn into like a complete robot to finish that without any more mistakes.
I don't know what you mean.
Aberdeen sophomore Aylin Haggard ran a time of 19 minutes and 11 seconds to win the 2A District 4 cross-country championship at a wet, muddy Lewis River golf course in Woodland on Thursday. Haggard finished 9 seconds ahead of the second-place runner and was a full minute faster than Haggard's time on the same course last year as a freshman. Holy smokes. On the boys' side, Bobcat senior Henry Nelson, stud, qualified for state by placing 3rd with a time of 16 minutes and 31 seconds. Cecil Gamalius also qualified for state, attaboy, with a 24th place finish.
That time for Henry Nelson is insane. And
Yes.
How did he not win?
Right.
That's it. The Schweppe sisters swept the top 2 spots of yet another cross-country meet on Thursday. Montesano sophomore Haley Schweppe continued her dominance with a first-place finish in a time of 18 minutes and 53 seconds at the 1A District 4 Championships on the Lewis River Golf Course in Woodland, same course as 2A. Haley's senior sister Samantha, I was having fun with some alliteration today.
Attaboy.
Her senior sister Samantha took 2nd with a time of 19 minutes and 32 seconds, and Zoe Ray placed 7th at 20:26.
Nice.
All the 3 of those girls have been like right at the top of
Awesome.
every meet this year.
Yeah.
The Bulldogs won their 2nd consecutive team district title, and on the boys' side, Elma's Frank Roberts placed 2nd, Montesano's Benny Anderson took 3rd, and Hoquiam's Riker Maxfield finished 4th.
Is that a 2nd, 3rd, 4th Harbor right there?
It's not quite
Okay.
a Schweppe sweep, but
Yeah.
it's a sweep of some
Yeah.
nature. Yeah.
Icetown Ice
Town gives Ice Clown town crown.
I knew you would know it if I started it. Thank you.
That's a Parks and Rec reference.
Montesano's volleyball team finished league play with an unblemished record on Tuesday with a straight set win at Elma. Bulldogs senior setter Carissa Otterstetter, love that, racked up 26 assists, 26 assists, 11 digs, and 8 kills. While Kylie Wisdom led the team with 10 kills, the Eagles were led by Alyssa Warren with 12 digs and Hayden Bogar with 7 kills and 5 digs. Elma lost a district play-in game against Kalama on Saturday, so their season is sadly over, and Montesano will place Schmeaton Catholic on Wednesday in the opening round of the district tournament.
Aberdeen's volleyball team capped its regular season with a straight set home loss to Tumwater on Thursday. The Bobcats had a shot at a share of the league title if they had won. A shot at a share of a Schweppe sweep. But they will be the 2A Evergreen League's 2nd seed in the district tournament after finishing their regular season 8-2 in league play, 11-4 overall. It's been an excellent season for the Bobcats. Aberdeen will start district tourney action on Thursday in Woodland against Greater St. Helens League 3 seed Mark Morris.
Whew. Is that it for our local sports roundup? I just got a Bleacher Report thing that said Clutch Gino forces overtime with another touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Hey, that's good for my fantasy team.
I'm upset because it wasn't to Tyler Lockett.
I have JSN, so.
But I'm also upset because it's Clutch Gino, even though he threw one of the garbagest pick of all time in the red zone earlier. See, this is why I think he's mid. He does good things, but also that pick was so bad.
Sometimes
man.
you have to be unclutched to be able to come up clutch.
Oh, so he unclutched it so he could then be clutch?
But it's not like he did it intentionally. It's just who he
You
is.
sure?
Like he unclutched to become a clutch. Or maybe he did do it on purpose, like a Al Martin kind of a thing. Remember that Mariners outfielder? He used to like jog halfway to the ball and then dive to catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you called that an. Well, I guess no, that's not really Jimmy and I's problem, is it?
No, you run fast and then lay out to catch. No, Al Martin would literally like jog to a ball and then dive to catch.
Yeah, I remember that. That's a good pull right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jimmy and I just
Also,
dive
Al
for balls
Martin-
that are like 12 feet away and we won't be able to catch it.
Al Martin,
But that one time we do.
weird face.
Super weird face. That's my like biggest memory of him actually.
Yeah.
It's like weird face.
Same. I remember him as dives when he doesn't need to and weird face.
Yeah.
Couple comments here.
Okay. Let's have it.
Chase Ferrier says he just wanted a score. He just wanted Elma to score
one.
once against Monty.
Just
Chase,
one.
I'm sorry they couldn't do that for you. And then he also said he takes pride in the fact that he was the only person to get the Owako game right. Good job, Chase.
Yeah, good
We
call.
all got that one wrong.
Yep.
I felt really similarly about Owako and Raymond Southman. I just picked Raymond Southman because they were at home. Bitcoin Hoodie Guy says Elma's D needs to be the Spivey Athlete of the Week because by an act of God and a miracle, they held Monty under 50.
Man.
He says John Madden, a Grays Harbor god, pulled strings from heaven for that magical feat.
That comment.
It seems like a lot.
There's a lot. Daniel says it's a weird thing. Gino is capable of the best and also the worst. Exactly. Which you know what usually lands him overall? Mid.
Yeah, true.
But you're right. He is capable of amazing things.
Yeah.
And yet sometimes he does some of the dumbest crap you'll ever see.
Francis also sent in a comment I don't feel like reading, but it made me remember. Did you hear about that big New Year's Eve announcement that's Yankees related?
New Year's Eve?
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Because they're inviting Aaron Judge to New York because somebody needs to drop the ball on New Year's Eve.
Ooh, big play by your guy, Smith and Jigba.
Another one?
Time. Yeah, but
Tutty?
there's a flag on the play. No, it was like a 30-yard reception, but there's
Dang
a
it.
flag, so we'll see.
I have not even. I got so wrapped up in not
In
only
the mess of the WIAA.
waiting for the playoff matchups to come out, and then figuring out who's playing where and when, what I think the actual seeds are and what the thought process was, and then like trying to sort through social media and find people's reactions to everything. That was hours of my day.
Francis just said bye.
He's not leaving.
We lost it.
He's not leaving.
Francis says, fun fact, on November 4th, 1984, the Hawks had 4 pick sixes in one game versus the Chiefs. I don't care that
The
much.
Atlanta Hawks?
Or Trey Young.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Justin.
Yeah. So do we want to? There was a game that we
Justin.
both attended on Friday. Is there like anything we want to talk about from that, or do you want to kind of move past it and jump right in? Because there is interesting things happening with Monty, like injury wise,
Yes.
because they were missing 2 of their best. I mean, like the guys who filled in did a really nice job.
Yeah.
But Torrin Kreitz might be their best offensive skill position player. Tarek
Mhm.
Gunter's been their starting halfback and doing a really good job this
Yeah.
year. Both of those guys were out with injury. I did read
Torrin's also a great defender. too.
they both are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Tarek plays corner and,
Yeah, you're
and,
right.
and Torrin plays
yeah.
safety, which for me going into the game, I was like, I it wasn't like I ever thought like, oh yeah, Elma's going to be favored in this game. But I
Right.
did think if there were injuries that were going to hurt Monty, it's defensive backfield players.
Right.
Because Elma has receivers. They have depth of receivers who are fast and can go make plays. So I thought if Monty couldn't step up and have those guys be guarded, that it might be tough for them to cover. The guys who filled in did a really great job. But in the game also, I think I texted the group at one point, I'm really happy with this game, but I need guys to stop limping off the field.
Yeah.
It felt like every other play for a while, Elma had just gotten so physical and the collisions were so much that there was guys limping off the field constantly. Gabe Pahala limped off the field at one point. He did come back. Mason Rasmussen left the field. didn't come back to play, but did end up coming back and limping around on the sidelines a little bit.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that. Sorry, the Seahawks 4th and 1 in overtime. Do they just call it? I think they called a timeout because they're thinking about going for it because they want to go for the win. I think they're in the red zone, so there's still more opportunities for you to score more points.
Yeah.
I was really worried about that Rasmussen one because the way he was looking on the field worried me.
Yeah.
And especially because normally when it's a cramp, like sometimes you see a kid in a ton of pain and then you're like, okay, the next thing you need to look for is this a cramp? And the biggest way to tell is, do they immediately start stretching something? That usually is a cramp. They're just trying to stretch it out, get it to release. They didn't start doing that. So I got really worried. So I was super excited that he started putting weight on it, walking around on the sideline. Smart move that they didn't put him back in, but also great to see that he was walking around on the sideline in full pads, even though he wasn't like going to go back in and play. It was still good to see. And the Seahawks got stuffed on 4th and 1, not even close. Very uncreative play, just a freaking running back power. And I'm sorry, but what has your offensive line showed you this entire year that would make you think, you know what will probably work? Let's just run the ball up the middle like a normal play. Nothing. Not one thing has shown you that. Wow. I hate that play call.
It's wild how much I don't pay attention to NFL football anymore.
Dude,
I didn't even miss it today. Like when I was saying I got all wrapped up in high school football stuff, I didn't think about NFL football.
I thought, you know why I started to make sure I watched it? Because I was like, there's no chance Justin is paying attention to the Seahawks game right
Fair. You were right.
I was just like, that's not going to happen. And now I'm going to turn it back off so I can focus a little bit more on what we're actually talking about.
Yeah.
I thought going into the game, okay, what are they going to do without Torrin? And I knew they had other dudes on offense that they could turn to. I knew that Marcus Hale is just waiting to get more opportunities. Personally, I don't know if he's like,
we were waiting for him.
We were waiting because we know he's good enough. Yeah, that's the way to say it. Timmons showed us a ton in that Rochester game, I felt like. And boy, did he take advantage of what he did. Defensively, I thought Ashton McKinney played great at free safety. And it's going to be interesting to see how long Tarek's out, because even though it was a shutout, I did feel, and even though Royce had a pick six or had an interception, I still felt like Tarek's a good cornerback. And so I think moving on into state, you want Tarek back, especially on defense. But it was, as somebody looking, if you're a Monty fan looking into the playoffs, it's good to know that you have depth. And I thought they showed a ton of depth in that game.
I mean, absolutely. And at least one thing is you don't have Torrin. Torrin's a great downfield threat, a really good receiver. You at least have Mason Rasmussen on the other side. So the ball that Tyson Perry hit Mason deep with.
Oh my gosh.
That was an absolute dime. Because he could not possibly be thrown any better.
Yeah. I mean, Ethan was beat by about a step.
Yeah.
And yet he recovered pretty well. He didn't recover enough to be able to turn and find the ball. But he was, like, you saw the picture of it that Forrest took.
Yeah.
Did you see that picture?
I did, yeah.
Beautiful picture.
I had a picture of that play also, not nearly as good as the one that Forrest took.
Well, Forrest is his lenses are pretty
yeah,
dope.
That's the only reason why his photos are better than mine. Yeah.
But what a perfect pass. Like, there's even if Ethan was in perfect position, I'm not sure if he could have done anything about that, because it was that good of a pass.
Agreed. I don't know how you could possibly guard that besides possibly like anticipating that the throw was going to be perfectly there and trying to get somehow to the outside of the receiver and being faster.
Yeah. Exactly. And Mason's really fast.
And Mason's really
big.
fast. Yeah.
And big. We saw what he did on that freaking touchdown catch, too.
I did think there was a kind of a theme of Monty runners being able to run through tackles quite a bit in the game. I thought, actually, to be honest, Timmons looks a lot like Tarek as a runner, like
Very
really similar. They're both patient. They're both quick cut runners. They're both small, but they run deceptively really strong.
Yeah.
I think that I mean, having two guys that could do that is a huge luxury. And we've seen throughout the course of the season, Zach Timmons getting a little bit more work. You know, he started out not really playing much offense at all. He started mixing in. They would put him at fullback. They're experimenting with different sets where he's the fullback, but he lines up in the slot and all kinds of different stuff. And we're seeing more Timmons, and it's been pretty impressive.
It's some interesting comments in the chat there. Yeah, man, dude. Chase says one day Elma will beat Monty. Do you realize how long it's been?
Yeah, you were. Ian, by the way, artistically done in the pregame. Ian did this the last time Elma beat Monty. He goes through a whole bunch of different things, and he was like, Daniel, you were 16 years old, and my daughter was only 1 year old, and his daughter's graduated now, or is she?
Yeah, I think, well, it was in 2005.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Crazy.
Really crazy.
Yep.
And there's been some competitive games.
There's been a few mixed in there, but
there's been a lot of really non-competitive games.
Yeah. It's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But I when you're broadcasting games like that, you have some extra time to think about different things besides what's going on in the game. And
why?
I started to have some deep thoughts in my head about okay, this can't just be people moving places for sports programs. And so I started to think about economics. I was diving deep, man, in my brain. Why is Elma not beat Montesano since 2005? It's got to be deeper.
Well, it's
than
not
what
that
the surface level says.
It's not that the community doesn't care about high school sports.
Exactly.
I guarantee you that much, because they do.
Absolutely.
In a big way.
So, I mean, it's just crazy. Andrew says the Seahawks game is over. You can start now. Andrew, we've been going for a while, bud. Just because you forgot to, tell us that you were going to be out of town.
Oh, the Seahawks lost.
Yeah, they lost. Terrible fourth down call. Also, terrible decision by Gino throwing a pick six in the red zone earlier in the game.
Yeah.
He almost made up for it, apparently, by tying the game late to force overtime. But then, just didn't work out.
Yeah. So ultimately, I don't think there's a ton to really dig into from that game other than what we already touched on. There was some guys who stepped in. You mentioned Ashton McKinney. We talked about Zach Timmons, Cole Kesbu.
What's Royce's last name?
Gordine.
Yeah. Royce played well.
Yeah. And then also Cole Kesbu stepping in for. I mean, Torrance so good.
Yeah.
That's big shoes to fill, and he did a really nice job. Even had a good touchdown run of 19 yards or whatever it was, which I think was the one in the third quarter that initiated the running clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe you're right.
Yeah.
Shoot, I have my notes here somewhere. I brought that bag in.
So I think
just a second.
I think seeing that, not only did they do something kind of a little uncharacteristic and set up what I guess you'd call it a goal line package. I don't know if it's a red zone package where they pack it in kind of tight, bring Marcus Hale into the backfield in the shotgun. From the outside looking in, I was kind of like, can we line him up behind the quarterback so that when he gets the ball, he's got a head of steam? But obviously those guys know way more about football than I do. But
he need it too?
True. The idea of in those situations, letting Marcus have a chance to just be a battering ram.
Right.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But they haven't even really unleashed Felix Romero on offense yet either. I don't know if that's a wrinkle we see at some point where they have Felix come in and run a Wildcat style offense sometimes.
Right.
There's some interesting wrinkles to this offense that I think they can do more things. They may not have a top level of super elite skill players, but they have a ton of really good skill players that are super capable of doing something with the ball in their hands. And then, Gabe Pahala gets a handful of carries. He absolutely could handle more too.
Yeah.
So I like the balance that they struck in that game.
Depth and balance is things that could definitely help them going forward into the state tournament.
Yeah.
Kisby was that was the touchdown that put it over into the running clock. Here's another musing that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Running clock, 30-point lead in the second half. And like, come on, do you really have to get to 40? Like at halftime, it was 31-0.
Yeah.
Do you think that you needed like 2 more scores? That's what needed to happen. They were up 31-0 at halftime,
Yeah.
and they had to score 2 more times before the running clock is started.
I'll say when you.
My
yeah.
main point. Okay, my first main point is like, come on, what are you doing? You're in a 10-run rule. It feels like this is more like a 21-run rule. But also, player safety. Like if I'm going to the WIAA, you've made all these rules about player safety. Make it a 30-point, and you will completely shift like all of your player safety things because you'll cut down on the end of game time. And maybe it's just the starter's player safety that actually gets impacted. So maybe that's not as big. But I mean, how many times have we seen that happen where like somebody gets dinged up at the end of a game trying to get to that 40-point mark when the game's over?
I will say when you first texted that to our group,
You're like, no, that's dumb.
I was like, no. I wasn't like, no, that's dumb, but I was like, no, like because so many weird like momentum can change.
By,
you see,
by 4 touchdowns?
So that's where I eventually came to. And I was thinking in my head, like, number one, what's a game that a high school game I've ever been to where I felt like it's a 30-point game in the third quarter and it could turn?
Right.
There's none.
None.
And the other thing was like, towards the end of the game, I was really wanting it to be over.
Right.
Because after I watched player after player limping off the field, I was like, please stop. Can we have like an emergency red button that we push and the game can be over so we get healthy to next week?
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. I think while my initial reaction was I don't like that. Then after I thought about it more, I was like, no, actually that makes a lot of sense. It's 30 points is still 4 scores.
Yeah.
Like it's 4 possessions.
And it's over 4 and an extra point. Like
Yeah.
you have to do a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So I don't know. That's my pitch.
That should be an off-season conversation. We should dig deeper into that.
I like it.
I do want to talk a little bit about what's next for the teams that we have in the playoffs.
It's gross.
Some of it's gross. Some of it's fine. Some of it's gross for different reasons. Some of it's gross in a way that benefits us.
Oh, true.
So with this new playoff structure, and number one, the information process has been so frustrating.
So bad.
And it's been changing constantly. And I don't know who to blame except the WIAA for the fact that they decided to wait until the season was already going to roll out this new playoff system when we were not ready for it. Their communication wasn't out. People didn't know what to expect. The teams didn't know. I talked to coaches from our local teams this past week, and the information that they knew about who was getting into the playoffs from the Trico and Evergreen leagues was different from what information had been put out by the Washington State Coaches Association, which was supposed to be like the official source.
Right. And sources have told us that they went back on their word on how they're supposed to do things.
So the whole thing has been a total mess.
It's a giant
disorganized
poop show,
chaotic poop show. But we finally got there to the point that like, and then today, the other thing was like, I figured out where the information was coming from. People are used to seeding releases coming from the WIAA and the WIAA website. Well, I figured out on like Wednesday, oh no, it's not coming from them. It's coming from the Coaches Association.
Gotcha.
So I set up like Twitter alerts for the Coaches Association. I just kind of assumed in my head, everybody who cared had done the same. But then I was getting like messages and questions from people like, hey, where'd you find that information? I can't find it anywhere. And I'm like, okay, now I'm trying to guiding people to where the information is.
Right.
But what we did find out is that it was correct from the beginning that the Trico got 5 teams, the Evergreen got 3. When the Coaches Association put out informations about allocations and it said 7 for District 4, that was apparently incorrect because 8 teams got in. So there was some kind of typo, some kind of miscommunication there. We did get 3 Evergreen teams. If anybody's curious about how things go from this week to next week, there's no seeding this week. So all the matchups you're seeing, it's not a 1 seed versus a 24.
No seeding this week.
I would assume what they did was like, here's the list of teams this is the order we think they are in from 1 to 24.
Yeah.
Let's see what the matchups would be. Finagle them so we don't have teams from the same league playing each other. Try our best to finagle them a little bit, but we're not for travel, but we're not going to move somebody more than a spot or two.
And obvious.
So I think
like the finagling was more league than, in my opinion, more league.
We
than
can
travel.
go through like the weirdness of the way that they did the travel as well. But I do believe
just bonkers.
From what I can tell, they ranked the teams 1 through 24 and then made minor adjustments as needed, but without moving teams like several spots, trying to keep the matchups fair. The way this really... Oh, and then the other thing to note is that the teams, because there are no seeds, when we go into next week's matchups, the same committees that seeded this round will also be seeding the next round, but they will be able to take into consideration what happened in the play-in games.
Right.
So, like, if they thought, like, let's say hypothetically they thought Montesano was the 7th best team, which is where they were in the list. That would make Colville, what, like the 16th best team or something like that? I'm not great at math. But whatever that was, like, if Monty goes out and
18th.
If Monty goes out and, like, blows out the 18th best team in the state 56-0, they might get a little boost from that.
Right.
So they want to be able to take those matchups into consideration. And at the same time, maybe if a team they had as a road team like Rochester, who, by the way, does have the shortest trip of any of the road teams, which I'm happy about. Let's say they beat Life Christian. That would be a huge win.
That'd be awesome.
And it might change the way that everyone views Rochester. It wouldn't be viewed as a fluke.
And then they would also maybe view Montesano differently.
So exactly. So they're going to take those things into consideration and reseed, but it will be the same committee that seeded originally. So you can kind of have already in your head an idea of where they think these teams slot in.
Also yes.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to, I want to let you lead where we're going with this discussion.
Okay.
Because you know so much more than I do. But now as I'm looking through this, like, is there anything you want to say about the process?
No, I think that was pretty much it. Yeah. I want to talk about the bracket itself.
So Nukesack Valley.
Yeah.
Very curious situation with Nukesack Valley.
Okay.
So they are the 5 seed, even though there's no seeds.
There's no seeds, but they're the 5 seeds.
So, as you mentioned before, it looks like they're seeds, even though they said there wasn't seeds.
Just for reference, the top 7 are literally the exact 1 through 7 from Evan's computer rankings, which are my favorite computer rankings.
Yes.
And then if you go to like the next 6, it's kind of a jumbled version of the same teams.
Right.
So it does kind of look like they seeded them.
It really does. Especially since they were like, Colville, who's playing against Montesano, has a 7-hour drive.
Right.
What? Also, my guy, it doesn't take 7 hours to drive from Colville to Montesano.
So here's the deal.
I know that you went Google Maps, right?
I did. And so like there's different traffic fluctuations, and I get it.
I'm saying that I was more just like talking about how I speed really bad. And so Colville is like right before like I can make it.
I got you.
I can make it to Colville in like 5.5 hours, my guy. And that's from Aberdeen. So just throwing that out there. But no, so they couldn't have cared that much about travel. Like we heard from so many people. How many people were like, "Oh no, they're gonna make sure travel's okay." That's a 7-hour drive.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right.
Like, let's say you flip a couple of teams. I don't know. Like, figure something out. It is just disgusting. And they say it's not in the football, but in basketball, they said it's all about saving money. And then all of a sudden, everybody's driving more to games where they make less money at the game. So there's no way you save more money in that situation. It's just asinine. But then you got Linden Christian, who lost to Nooksack, is down at 9, and Montesano's at 7, and Nooksack's at 5. Like, what's going on with those 3?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's very odd.
I don't have a real problem with Nooksack being ahead of Monty.
Right.
I know Monty beat them. It was a home game. It was a close game.
A long drive for Nooksack.
And Nooksack's resume It's really solid. And
Right.
the only game they lost outside of Monty was to Tumwater, and everyone kind of recognizes what Tumwater is. Pound for pound, maybe the best team in the state,
Yeah.
like across the classification. So yeah, I mean, from that perspective, I don't really have a lot of gripes. It's a weird situation where I looked at this matchup and I looked how far away Colville is, and I should be celebrating like my team gets to play a team that has to drive 7 hours,
Yeah.
and I just felt bad
Yeah.
because I've done the thing where you drive 6 hours to a game.
Yeah.
I've done it multiple times, and it
Well,
sucks.
I mean, I love what you did. I love that you went and Googled the drive times to all these. So La Jolla at Royal, 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's kind of like right on the border, maybe a little above the border of what I think should really be acceptable.
Yeah, because you see that in districts. I mean, that's like the long drive of a district game.
Yeah.
If you have like,
It's like if Monty and you play if you're Hoquiam and you play at Stevenson, it might
Exactly.
be about that, maybe a little bit longer.
yeah, it's that, but that's the weird,
Yeah.
like, oh, that sucked that worked out that way.
Right.
Elma at La Center, that's not bad at all. That's
That's
a
a good
District
one.
4 matchup.
That actually is, if the crossovers hadn't died,
That's
the exact matchup that would have happened.
exactly, which is hilarious. Granite Falls at Kashmir, 2.5 hours.
Not bad.
Where's Granite Falls?
Can't remember.
Okay.
It's in the Falls of Granite, in the Granite region.
Gotcha. Because the drive times on the east side of the state, like all of them are just stupid long
Super weird.
because it's so big over
I
there.
think that's what part of the reason why they did this.
And I think that's maybe why they don't care so much.
Yeah.
Because the east side of the state drives a ton.
Yeah.
I remember when I was playing basketball, Glory Days drop here from Andrew, who decided not to be on our show today.
Yeah. He doesn't like us.
I remember we had a coach who played for OMAC, and we were all complaining about our drive from Hoquiam to Forks. And he was like, Hoquiam to Forks? Dude, that was like our closest road game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it
Lake-
is interesting just to show you the difference here. College Place and Chelan are playing a play-in game, and the difference between those two places to get to Seton Catholic is almost 2 hours.
Oh,
so,
jeez.
so that means those two schools that are in the same league playing a pigtail, or at least in the same district playing a pigtail, are 2+ hours apart.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see what else we got here. Lakeside and Nooksack, another great one.
Yeah.
6 hours and 26 minutes.
That's the longest one. That's the second longest one besides Colville to Monty.
Rochester has the closest one.
Yeah, Life
53 minutes to Life Christian. We already mentioned the 7 hours and 5 minutes from Colville to Montesano. Castle Rock and Cascade Christian, that's fairly close, hour and a half. Kingsway and Linden Christian, 4 hours and 37 minutes. Kalama and Kings, 2 hours and 45 minutes or 46 minutes. Connell and Omak. So this is, again, those are both on the east side of the state.
Yeah.
It seems bad until you realize that like all the drive times over there are terrible.
Yeah.
2 hours and 51 minutes. And then I love this Blaine, Meridian, Mount Baker, because we don't know which one. Also, I didn't know Blaine was a 1A school now.
Yeah, it's been that way for it was in the last classification cycle also.
Gosh, man.
Yeah.
Schools on the edges are shrinking.
Yeah.
It bums me out. Blaine, Meridian, Mount Baker at Zilla. It's either going to be 4 hours and 1 minute, 3 hours and 54 minutes, or 4 hours and 2 minutes to get into that drive.
So that was kind of where the reason I did this, and I'm glad that you brought it up, and I'm not the only nerd who feels like this is fascinating.
I love it.
We had these
I
district
feel
crossovers.
like we just lost everybody else, but I love it.
But we had these district crossovers, and on our side of the state, like, and again, I'm acknowledging that we're looking at this from a very insulated view, like we're looking at it from our perspective.
Yeah.
But the longest crossover we would have is like maybe 3 to 3.5 hours, and much more of them are more like 1.5 to 2 hours. And now we've got, of these 24 teams, half of them could be traveling 4 or more hours, and a couple of them are traveling over 6 hours.
Yeah.
I feel like it feels frustrating because, like, at least when you get to the state tournament, like, you complain about travel, but you kind of understand. Like, once it gets to the point where, all right, we're at like the 12 or 16 best teams in the state, they can't really consider travel quite as much as they would in a normal situation. But then we did this system, so now we're just adding an extra week of these like wild extra long matchups, and then guess what? Next week, there's going to be a whole bunch more matchups that have no consideration for
Yeah.
travel.
Exactly.
So it's wild to me. And then to be a team like, if you're a team that's at the bottom of this bracket and you're traveling to face one of the best teams in the state, you're just like traveling. How would you feel to be Lakeside going to Nooksack and
Right.
traveling 6.5 hours to march to your death?
Exactly.
Football
then-
death, not life.
But that's the thing. Like, that's exactly the point. Like, once you get to the bottom edge of this bracket, it's just you're going to your doom.
Yeah.
At least when you have other big tournaments, you split it up. So it's like, okay, you have 2 12 seeds, 2 1 seeds, 2 11 seeds, 2 2 seeds. But no, this is 24 against 1.
Yeah.
Like, this is brutal. So you're going to your doom.
Yeah.
And you're going to drive 6 hours to do it.
Yeah.
What's the point?
So we love to rant about these things. And
Yeah.
I hope that people are at least somewhat interested in our rantings and ravings about this. But I think people are more interested in specifically what our teams are doing and what their chances are wherever they are.
Right.
Monty being able to host Colville. I don't know much about Colville. I know that outside of Rochester, they're the only other league champion that is on the road. They were 5-4. So not like a really super impressive overall resume. But, one of the things we heard leading up to this is that league champions will be protected and getting home games, or they'll at least consider that. I think Rochester probably...
Sorry.
What
Johanna just commented, I'm stuck in the car with Andrew and he's controlling the radio. I'm stuck with you guys.
Guess what, Hannah, you're stuck with us for life. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Daniel then says bus naps are great as long as you can put your legs across the aisle. Yeah, that doesn't happen with football teams, dude. The teams are too big. It's not like basketball or swimming where we can like take up a whole 2 seats. And then he says RIP Johanna. And then Chase says crossover games at least gave some lesser teams a glimmer of hope sometimes. It didn't work out that way, but yeah. At least it was something.
Yeah, it's tough. So
actually, my dad says Google time. Ha! These are school buses, so it's probably going to take like 8 hours.
Well, that was
that's
actually a good point, because when I was saying that you travel from Monty to like White Salmon or whatever, it's like a 3.5 hour drive, but on the school bus it's longer.
Yep.
So
sorry, I derailed what you were saying.
No, you're good. No, the problem is that I don't remember what I was saying. Does anybody remember what I was saying?
Christian Delgado says, especially when you're 6'8", 300 pounds.
How would she know about that?
My guy, you're absolutely right. You have no way to nap on a bus.
Yeah, Lucas
like
is
you're hosed,
Lucas
man.
is going to struggle on that bus. No, well, he won't actually, because they're at home. But if he has to travel in the next round for a long bus ride, he's going to struggle on the bus.
Yeah,
he won't be driving the struggle bus, but he'll struggle on the bus. So yeah, I think if we're looking at from a perspective of what can we expect our teams to do, I don't know much about Colville. I thought they would protect league champions. The waters got a little muddied for Rochester when they lost to Tenino, because then they were no longer outright league champions. Had Rochester been 6-3 and outright league champions, they probably would have got to host the game.
Yeah.
As it is, they end up having to travel because they are the 1 seed, quote unquote 1 seed, even though there's no seeds in this, out of the Evergreen League. They shared the league title with Montesano, so they didn't get the benefit of the doubt there. But what I do know is that Colville was the only other league champion outside of Rochester that got a road game. And their reward for winning their league was a 7-hour trip to face what is believed to be like a top 7 or 8 team in the state in Monty. So I think if you're Montesano and you don't care about other people or your opponent, which is fine, you're really happy probably with the draw that you got, having a team have to drive all the way across the state to play you.
Yep.
Hopefully they can be healthy. Hopefully they can go into that game feeling confident about the players they have on the field. The other Evergreen 1A team that we have, which we already talked about, Elma, is traveling to La Center, which it's the district crossover that would have been anyway.
Yep.
It's fine. That's going to be tough because if
the center's real good.
Center's really good, and if there's one thing that Elma has struggled with this season, it's teams that are big and strong and try to bully you because they just don't quite have the size inside. They have skill players.
Yeah.
They don't quite have the size inside.
It's a bad matchup.
Yeah. So, and I'll be curious to see where they play that too, because La Center's home field is grass. And I imagine probably the way things have been the last couple of weeks, probably not in great shape. So if they play it in La Center, that's going to make it even worse for Elma because La Center's just going to try to grind and pound it down their throats. Maybe they'll play it in like Woodland or somewhere that has a turf field. But if La Center gets to host, then I think that's going to be a tough game for Elma. And they're going to have to hope that some of their dudes, like some of these guys, are going to be able to pop off for big plays.
Yeah.
And keep them in it scoring wise.
Are we wanting to get into the 2A team now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Aberdeen, if they can get by Columbia River.
Yeah.
Which all I know about them is they're the 5 seed from the Greater St. Helens
League.
Right. So then they play Franklin Pierce.
Yeah. And it's not just a guy, it's a school.
Yeah. And you never want to play a team that's ranked in between Archbishop Murphy and Linden.
Right.
Like that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
But Columbia River, on the other hand, yeah, let's go. This is a team that apparently was worse than Mark Morris and Washougal and let's see, Ridgefield and Woodland. So all 4 of those teams better than Columbia River.
Wow.
We saw last year Aberdeen fight really hard with Washougal, and I think probably could have beaten them on a different day, any given Friday type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Aberdeen's got a good shot to move out of this little pigtail game that they're in.
I think also the thing with Aberdeen is they seem to have really found something the last couple of weeks. Yeah. That game against Black Hills that clinched the 3 seed, they went ground and pound Micah Schroeder, gave him the ball 28 times, racked up almost 300 yards. And then this week it was another heavy dose of Micah Schroeder using Riley Wixon as kind of a change of pace.
Yep.
So I want to just assume that they have really found something that works on offense and they've adjusted. Because there was some bit of a rough go there early in the season while they were trying to find themselves. They were a super young team.
Yep.
So they're also gaining experience as the season goes on. So yeah, I would assume and hope that Aberdeen has a pretty good shot here against Columbia River. And then the weird thing about Franklin Pierce is like you said, ranking really high. I don't think the general perception of the Greater St. Helens League is they're always going to have 4 or 5 competitive teams, but they don't almost ever have a really good team.
Right.
So it's hard to kind of measure out how does Franklin Pierce actually measure up against the Tumwaters, the WF West, the Lindens, the Anacortes, the Archbishop Murphys of the world. Those teams are so well established as great, where Franklin Pierce, they're playing in a good league with good depth. So they're playing good competition, but what are they going to look like when they end up playing against somebody great?
Right.
So in a way, I almost feel like if you're Aberdeen, if kind of going into it, I'm going to play against one of these top 5 teams, you almost kind of wanted it to be Franklin Pierce.
Oh yeah.
Because what it looks like when you play against Tumwater WF West.
Right.
And I think people feel very similarly about the Linden Anacortes Why can't I say Anacortes?
It's dumb.
Linden,
it's a dumb town.
Anacortes, Archbishop Murphy, that northwest circle of teams up there.
Inside joke for Andrew. It's a dumb town.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. So I almost feel in a way, you don't want to play Franklin Pierce, but if you're going to be playing one of those top teams, Franklin Pierce is not a bad one to match up with.
You'd much rather play them than WF West again.
Exactly.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see how all those matchups go out.
Right.
You mentioned Greater St. Helens and how they have solid teams, but it's more of a basketball conference.
Yeah.
I feel like they generally good basketball teams out of those squads.
Yeah.
But football, not so much.
And I don't want to I don't want to make it seem like Greater St. Helens is bad. I think they're good. They're just not you're not going to see a Greater St. Helens team go to the state title game. It just kind of doesn't happen.
Yeah. Apparently, though, Franklin Pierce is 9-0, and they've given up 58 points all year.
Yeah, so
Ian
they're really
they're
really good.
They're really good.
I was not by any means trying to say they're not a good team.
You said they were trash.
I was kind of just doing a comparison between them and I was comparing them to Tumwater in my head. Let's just be honest. I'm saying, would you rather play Franklin Pierce or Tumwater? And you're not going to choose Tumwater. There we go.
What are we doing for commercials, my guy?
I don't know. Do you think
I have one that I can read, but I don't think I have the other one.
Why don't you do the one you can read, and I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll be right back.
Lucky you. Now also I found it earlier, and now I'm gonna have to find it again because there we go. I found it. Spivey Realty Group's goal is to make buying, selling, investing, and renting real estate in Grace Harbor simple. They believe in 100% transparency and unparalleled communication with local expertise, tech enhanced, and top-notch service for their friends, neighbors, and community. Their goal is simple. Get a group of strong-willed, hardworking people together who want to make a difference in Grace Harbor and to use real estate as the means of achieving that. Voted Grace Harbor's best real estate company. Find them on Facebook or visit graceharborrealestate.com. Spivey Realty Group, elevating small town real estate. Also, the sponsor of our Spivey Athlete of the Week, which is what we are getting into now, the topic of discussion. We have a bunch of nominations for this award this week, and man, it has been tough the last it's always tough. We have so many great performances to go on for all of the weeks. It really is tough to beat, especially when you have things like senior setter Carissa Otterstetter in there, just because it sounds awesome to say. Real quick, my dad texted in, not going to choose Tumwater unless you have Moses. Yes, but hopefully Hoquiam is the type of team that can still beat Tumwater when they get to high school. But
he meant Moses to Shazier. I thought he meant the biblical Moses.
That would also help.
Yeah, he'd just hold up his staff and he'd win the game.
That would also help because this goes back out to when Miller beat Bush. It's amazing how different it is when you get to don't do that. When you get to high school and one age group, one grade, when you beat Tumwater is a lot different than when you get to high school and they need 2 buses to get there. And you watch their skill position guys walk out onto the field and you're like, holy crap, Tumwater's got a big team. And then the linemen walk out and you're like, oh, bleep, 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 bleep. Because it's different, man. You watch a Tumwater game and it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to our Spivey Athlete of the Week.
There's
nominations.
A lot of good candidates, man.
Lots of good ones. Valerie Echeverria, 2 goals, I believe.
2 goals for Elma. It was the only 2 goals of the game.
Yep.
I guess, I think this game was really significant because the first time, Monty and Elma, really good soccer programs.
Both awesome.
And the first time they played, Elma's best player, Beta Valentine, went out really early with a concussion. Eesh. And then Monty ended up coming back, or they ended up winning that game, I think 2-0, if I'm remembering right. So Elma probably had been waiting all season for this chance to show, hey, if we're at full strength, we can win, and they did that. So I do think it's really significant
for the shared title, right?
Yeah, for the shared title, because they both only lost 1 league game and they only lost them to each other.
Yeah.
So they both went 7-1 in league play this season. So that's a huge one for me. And you get the escalator that it's a rivalry game also.
Yeah. Next one is Marcus Hale. What were his official numbers?
Yeah, he said
they're a little different from what we had him for.
Yes.
So
he had 6 carries for. You guys had him for 7, I think.
We had 7 carries, 22 yards, 3 touchdowns.
They had him for 6 carries for 30 yards and catching 3 passes for 47.
Okay, the catches are very close. Yeah. They give him 1 less carry and more yards than us.
Okay.
So that's an interesting difference. But also 3 touchdowns. The 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, is the big part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
also
game for Marcus.
Unofficially, I was told he had 10 tackles.
Doesn't surprise me.
Don't have official stats, but unofficially, I was told he had 10 tackles, which I think makes a big difference too.
Absolutely. Then we have Zach Timmons, also had a monster game. Yeah, Ian actually gave the nod to Zach for player of the game in this one, even though he didn't have the touchdowns to go with it. He did have 1 touchdown,
right?
But he had 14. We had him for 14 carries, 138 yards, and then 3 catches for 8 yards. Not much receiving, but just a great rushing performance by Zach in this game.
The official stats had him for 138 yards on 15 carries.
Interesting.
So I almost feel like if one of those guys gets athlete of the week, they almost kind of have to both. It's like a crash and dash thing.
Right.
Like Zach did.
A crash and dash.
Yeah, Zach did a little bit more of like
Instead of
the
thunder and lightning.
the yard.
Crash and dash.
Exactly. He did a little bit more of like the gaining yards in the middle part of the field, and then when they got closer, they went to that. A couple times they went to that different formation where they bring Marcus in and they pack it in a little tighter and let him be a battering ram.
Yeah.
So I felt like the way they complemented each other kind of almost lends to them sort of both being the athlete of the week if that were the selection, because they did it together in tandem.
Kind of a Robin Big situation there. Sorry. I'm just trying to think of other ways we could say like power and quickness.
Power and quickness.
Yep,
That's a good one.
There we go.
We got crash and dash, thunder and lightning, power and quickness.
Can't think of
Zach and
anything else.
Marcus.
There it is, Zach and Marcus. Somebody called him Hailstorm on one of your videos, and I loved it.
I think that Hailstorm, I could be wrong, but when they went to that formation, a bunch of people were yelling Hailstorm.
Love it.
So I don't know if like that's the nickname that they gave Marcus when they go into that formation, or if that's what they're calling the formation or what.
Right.
But Hailstorm was that was being shouted a lot, which that's an awesome phrase.
That's dope.
We also got a nomination for Jerica Brain, which I'm going to pull ahead of
Oh man, she played 3 games in one day.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a lot of soccer, man.
And she did really well in all the games. So playing for, and Jerica plays for the Grays Harbor Gulls, and she plays on both the boys and the girls teams.
She's awesome.
I think she got athlete of the week once before when she did a bunch of good stuff on the boys teams.
Yeah.
But she led the B13 team.
Not just a brain.
Yeah, not just a brain. She led the B13 team, or helped lead them to a 6-2 win. And the last time they played that team without her, they lost.
Oh dang.
And it helped to have her there. And then she played for the G14 team, and they won 4-0. And she scored 2 goals,
Of course.
and got player of the match. And she never subbed.
Of
And
course.
she never subbed in either of those
Oh
games.
my gosh.
And then she played in the G11 match, where they ended up losing.
Because she can play in a G11 match in all those other games.
She could just play with anyone.
Yeah.
They lost 2-1, and she played all but 3 minutes in the match, and she was just great all day. This comes from one of the coaches from the Grays Harbor Gulls organization.
Dude.
To have somebody, and then she had a game on Sunday too. I didn't hear how that one went, but she
gosh.
played 3 almost full soccer games, barely subbing out, scoring 2 goals in one of them, and going 2-1 for the day.
To be young again. Holy cow. She probably ran more than the Schweppes did.
Probably, yeah.
She probably ran more than the Schweppes did in one day playing soccer.
Yeah.
That is so impressive to me that she was able to pull that off. Man, what a stud.
Yeah.
Next we got Micah Schroeder. Aberdeen football had another monster performance.
Reigning Spivey athlete of the week.
Yep.
Had another big yardage day with another 3 touchdowns. He had 22 carries for 156 yards and 3 scores.
That's a lot
for Aberdeen.
Yep.
And I feel like that was a game where like Aberdeen didn't really have a ton to play for. Except, all the games matter because you know that when you get to the next round, like there's seeding and stuff.
Right.
But that was almost a throwaway non-league game at the end of the year.
It's so weird.
People were speculating like, oh, would there be a chance that maybe they try to stay sharp and play everybody in the first half, but then kind of regardless of how things are going, do they rest their guys in the second half?
Right.
And they came out and really handled Tenino, which makes me really happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. William McGaffey nominates Timmons. He ran hard all night, took a couple of hard tackles, and popped right up and didn't limp off the field. He also played very well on defense all game. That's true.
Yeah.
Timmons played awesome.
Yeah, he did.
Francis said some stuff that I'm not going to repeat.
Okay, good.
It's Francis.
Okay.
And then he said hashtag Schweppy Schweep, which I'm okay with him saying that. Let's see. Next we got, is it Aylin Haggard?
I think so, yeah.
Aylin, another crazy performance in cross country this week, just dominating the field and beating her own PR from last year by a minute.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
The same
and
course.
bolts.
Exactly. So for year over year, the exact same course. And I don't know what the conditions were last year, but they said, like it specifically said in the article that it was really wet and muddy this year. So you'd think as a distance runner that might be like a bit of an impediment, like not only just the discomfort of it, but like footing and stuff. But she was a minute better than before and winning a district title into a District 4. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. And she's been great all year.
It's really great. Yeah.
And then
senior setter Carissa Otterstetter.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say it again.
I typed that all out there just for you.
I appreciate it. I love it. I know you didn't have to put it in the athlete of the week. You could have just put Carissa Otterstetter.
No, she is now and forever will be, even after she's never played volleyball again for 20 more years.
Yeah.
She will be senior setter Carissa Otterstetter.
If I ever learn what she looks like and I see her on